Hello everyone, and my name's Bobmich. Welcome to some more Star Citizen stuff. So it's been a very long time since I last did a video, something along the lines of like Star Citizen, should you play this game? And I figured with the free flight sort of not quite coming to an end, but getting onto its last legs, because it expires on Wednesday, probably Wednesday, Thursday night-ish. It might be an idea to try and kind of run through some of the sort of the positives and the negatives of Star Citizen. So there isn't any kind of specific sort of gameplay loop or anything in this video. I'm literally just playing the game as I waffle on here. So yeah, it's Star Citizen's had obviously a lot added to it since we last had one of these videos, hasn't it? So lots of ships, 2 planets in fact, and a few game mechanics, and the flight model rework, and the object container streaming is now obviously a lot better. The new flight model is one of the major things. So the question that was posed last time was, should you play this game? And the sort of roundabout thing I did last time was, it's a maybe, because you need to consider all of the kind of aspects that you might like in a game or not. So the sheer amount of stuff that's been added, you could say, oh yes, you know, that kind of quantifies what you can do in this game. However, there is still plenty wrong with it. And I'm not the only one to kind of put this into context, because of things like mining, stuff I haven't played very much, like Star Marine and Arena Commander. I haven't done a great deal on those things, but I know that there is problems with them. So yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag, and I would still say, as a sort of TLDR as we get into this, that if you want to play Star Citizen, you know, if you are content that you are playing an alpha experience and you are not getting a AAA game, and that the development process of this game is something that's completely different to something as a AAA title, like, we'll go with one of the more successful ones recently, like Apex Legends or something like that. We'll not go for one of EA's lovely assets for now, but the production process is pretty different, and there is a lot that is good about this, and there is a lot that is bad about this. So you kind of have to get on board knowing that development cycle is in process. Personal thoughts on it? I love Star Citizen. You know, it's you can definitely say that I'm biased. I do love this alpha. I enjoy the development process. However, I will admit, and I will be quite happy to point out, that there is a lot that is wrong with it. So marketing for one. They did the free flight event that's just come on and has almost gone by at a seemingly very strange time, because they'd only just released the 3.5 client, and there was a lot that was still broken with it. There still is a lot that is still broken with it. So they released patches to help with mining, because I know mining was broken, but they still left a few sort of glaring omissions in. I'm not going to go and list them here, because that would be silly for this kind of video. But it definitely had a few sort of bumps in the road, and they picked a very strange time to kind of put this sort of free flight weekend out there. I enjoyed the alpha. I love the experience of this game, even as limited in its scope as it is now. I can't go back to something like EVO Online at the minute, or Elite Dangerous, because if I try and play one of those games, I miss the fact that I can't walk around my ship and I can't interact with things, and you know, this is a bit of a buggy mess still, and things break, and you can spend a large amount of time doing something and it doesn't work. But that's the whole process of an alpha. Most of the stuff in here that's to do with missions works okay, and by that I mean the things like the box pickup missions, like one of which I'm doing now, which is delivery pilot for Covalex, which is one of the kind of easiest ways to make money in this client at the minute. When it comes to the missions with the NPCs, however, there are some that work and there are some that do not. So if you do simple ones like the the box delivery mission kind of ones, like what this is now. So Recco Batiglia and Wallace Klim, they tend to work a lot better than the ones that are long-winded and have a lot to them. So I have yet still, since Hurston was implemented, been able to do Clovis Darnley's satellite blade pickup mission. That mission has never spawned for me. I think it did once, but I never got to complete it, because as soon as I accepted it and I tried to go out to the satellite itself, the mission just disappeared from my log. So yeah, that I've never been able to do that one. I have been able to complete Twitch Pacheco, so Tisha Pacheco, the new mission NPC who is on ArtCorp. I've been able to do her mission a couple of times, but that's because I kind of haven't stuck with it since it's been coming in. It is one of the better working ones, but when you do it, it takes a long time and there is a lot to it. So these days when I tend to do it, it's because we're in a group with the Synchronizers organisation, and we tend to try and loot the whole place as opposed to go and just go and grab the box that we need. As you can see, one of the bugs in this ship is the canopy loves to open and close on its own. So there's still a few things to work with. Yeah, so the NPCs, the simple missions that you can make money from, they work fine. But when it comes to things like the more in-depth NPCs that require a lot of time investment, or they are more complicated, so there is a lot more staple for things to go wrong, then things can and will go wrong. And again, that's fine because it's the alpha, but I can understand why if someone's, bought a ship like the little Avenger that I've got here. I don't own this Avenger, this is from the Free Fire event. If they bought one of these ships and they want to come and do the mission, and they get kind of sort of halfway through it and then it all breaks, and you've been trying to do something like that for an hour, going on an hour and a half, because some of the missions do take that long, then it can be a bit of a bummer, and you can definitely see why that kind of thing puts people off the game. What else can we work on? So the flight model has changed since we last did this game. I think personally that it is a lot better than what we had. The flight model in 3.0 going forwards, when they gave it a big overhaul, was definitely, it felt too god modey. So you could literally, spin around upside down in stupid ways that physics in our current universe that we occupy, maybe not the Star Citizen universe, would just break. And that's fine, that it was something that was still being heavily developed. But now we've had the new one, so we've had the new flight model put in, and this has changed everything from how thrusters and maneuvering thrusters and ship overheating, so the heating elements when it comes to your main engines and your quantum drive, this has all changed now, and for some parts it's better because it means if you're a combat pilot you can do more to damage people's ships. It also means that ships that have had a kind of combat overhaul, so ships that are bigger and should have been more meatier from the outset, kind of like the Constellation and things like that, they can pack a bit more of a punch now than they used to. They have better shields. The 600i is quite formidable now, unless you're in something quite small and nippy that can take it out. So I think it's a lot better. There are negative aspects to it. As I've said, the heating mechanic, people don't like that. This is something that's still being changed, but it basically means that your engines in atmospheric flight and your quantum drive can overheat very quickly, which means it cuts out on distance, and you kind of have to fiddle with it to make it work the way you want to. And for people who have been playing the alpha for a long time, this is something that could be second nature. However, for people who haven't been playing it for a long time, or they don't know how to do it, because let's face it, there's no kind of tutorial apart from the ones that YouTubers post online, this is something that they kind of have to get used to, and it can bum them out when they're trying to get somewhere and their quantum drive keeps cutting out every 2 minutes because they're only in a small ship and they're trying to cross half a solar system. So again, ups and downs. Combat, as I've said, has changed because ships have been made more meaty. The ships themselves are brilliant. You can tell ships leaving atmospheres and things like that are a damn sight more effective. However, again, it all depends on your kind of perspective. They've made it so that they can quantum spline around ships a lot differently now. So when you're trying to leave and exit planets, they've made that easier for sure. But easier comes with the caveat that you understand that larger ships like the Reclaimer and the Hammerhead and so on, they're a lot harder to get into atmospheric places because they are huge and they need VTOL mode. The Reclaimer especially needs VTOL mode. The Hammerhead can kind of hold itself up, but trying to land those now in an atmosphere is a lot harder and takes, most importantly, a lot more time. I tried to land a Reclaimer on Hurston when the new flight model had been implemented, and it took me damn near half an hour to 45 minutes to get the thing down to the surface because it's so sluggish to get there. So we are getting to that point now where ships that, you know, feel too big to be able to land on planets are getting close to that state of affairs. So, you know, when we get to things like the Idris and the Kraken and the Javelin especially, you know, there's the kind of running joke that they'll be able to get there and land, but they'll only be able to do it once, because as soon as they land they basically become a permanent base because they can't take off again. Next, I suppose, is the whole first-person aspect of it. So the first-person aspect is more or less the same. We've had new weapons and things added, and we've had new armors and things added, and of course we've had the female characters added, which is making things a little bit more diverse, and the addition of all the new armors and the, not so much they're all new armors, but it's mainly colour variants, so you can personalise your characters a lot more, which is great. You know, it's nobody doesn't look around all the same, like looking like clones, so there is a little bit of variation to it. And I think the way that they implemented all the female armors was fantastic, because I've said to the guys from Synchronizers many times that if the person is wearing heavier armor, so if you're wearing medium to heavy armor, unless you went up to them and, you know, you watched their animations or you saw that their stature, because the females in this at the minute tend to be a little bit shorter, you can't tell it's a girl who is inside the armor when it's heavier armor. So that's really cool how they managed to do that. The weapons are still, they work. I'll just leave it like that, shall we say. So the weapons are as effective as they are, but there's still things that are a bit janky with them. If you try and use the head tracking with the face over IP, with the FOIP, it's really hard to aim a weapon, because as your head moves, it doesn't move with your iron sights, so that can be really annoying, especially in a tight situation. If you find yourself ambushed and you're having a giggle with the head tracking, you're just going to end up shot to pieces in seconds. The things like sniper rifles, so the Scalpel ballistic sniper rifle and the Arrowhead, they still don't seem to function over the longer distances that I feel they should, if that makes sense. They just feel like a bolt action assault rifle with a slightly stronger scope strapped to them, because you can't even zoom in with the scope. The scope has no zoom on it, which is what I think is the major limiting factor of them. You can't zoom in with the scope, you can't get a magnification, and you aren't able to sort of calculate for long distances. Again, this is something that's in the alpha and it's going to change. That's kind of going a bit off topic of 3.5 though. So the guns are great for the most part, but they still need work. As for the ships have been great, I think. We've had a lot yanked in since the last time I did one of these videos, and as I said, I don't own this Avenger. This is from the Free Flight. I don't actually own an Avenger Titan anymore, although for someone who is new to the game, much like Board Gamer, if you are new, I would still heavily recommend one of these things, because the Avenger Titan, you can do pretty much anything in the game currently that, you know, the game has to offer, and you don't need to worry about, oh, you know, is my ship too small to do this, or blah 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 blah. No, you can do 99% of the missions, bar anything to do with mining, for obvious reasons. So saying that, even an Aurora can do 99% of the stuff. So if you do want to get into the game and you're watching this and you're just curious, even a base package Aurora will still let you do 99% of the things in the game. But you will see the bigger, shinier ships, and if you turn out to like the alpha, then, you know, it's a whole mixed bag of, oh no, I could be doing this and I could be doing that, but my ship doesn't feel like it's big enough because it hasn't got big enough guns, or the shields aren't effective, or I go against an NPC ship which turns out to be something like a Crusader security hammerhead and I get torn to pieces in seconds. You're gonna fall into that trap, unfortunately, which is the vast expense of Star Citizen. There's other things like, you know, what's the point of weapons, and so the FPS weapons and ship weapons. And ship weapons, everyone is already trying to sort of min-max and find current metas and things that the ships can do the most damage with, which I think is kind of pointless at this stage in the game. You know, there's always going to be people who do that. If people are enjoying doing that, then that's down to them, not my thing. But for the most part, ship weapons and FPS weapons is just personal preference. They all do damage. They all have the end result, you know, they end up blowing people away if that's what you aim to do. But, you know, it's down to you. What do you think looks cool? It's your spaceship. You go and throw whatever the hell kind of guns you want on it for your kind of giggles. There's questions about risking losing progression. So say you do spend a vast amount of in-game money on a new ship that you buy from making money. Yes, you do lose it, unfortunately. Whenever they do large patches, so in the quarterly releases, then you do lose whatever ships and things that you bought. So anything that you bought with not store credit, so store credit as in on the RSI website, or ships that you have bought with money, be that from, you know, RSI sales or the grey market like the subreddit. Don't buy anything from eBay because that's just stupid. Do it from a trusted seller if you're going to use the grey market. You keep. But if you've been around in one of the ship shops in the current alpha, so Teachers on Levski and New Deal on Hurston, if you've been in there and bought ships, then yes, you do lose those. So whenever they do a big patch wipe, you lose that progression. Persistence is another question that was asked. There is persistence in game at the minute, however it's a little bit funky. Sometimes it works. So what I mean by persistence is, for those who don't know, is when you log out of an area, when you log back into the game, you basically pick up where you left off. And sometimes it works, but for the most part I think it's safe to say that it doesn't right now. So it works on locations like planets, so if you land in a certain planet or on a certain base like Grimhex, Olisar, Lorville, Area 18, then you will always wake up in that area. The room that you wake up in tends not to change either. So if you're in an area with a hab, like one of the locations I've just described, if the hab basically has shit in it that you can pick up and throw around, then that tends to persist as well. For instance, when you wake up on Area 18, the first thing you tend to see is a teddy bear that's at the foot of your bed. I took that teddy bear out jaunting with me on a trip once when I was doing a mission for giggles, and I have not seen that bear since when I lost that ship. So items that are in your hab tend to persist. I haven't tried this with cargo boxes and things yet. It might be an interesting thing to try if I can get back into one, but at the minute that's kind of it. Logging out within the beds on ships is the big one, and this is the one that's a bit janky. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. There doesn't seem to be any kind of like magic base code of the Star Citizen Alpha universe that you can try and use to make it work for yourself. It's kind of just an RNG, you know, random number dice roll that sometimes you will log out in the bed and it will work. When you're doing basic things, if it's other people's ships, I've noticed it tends to work a lot more. So if you're with, you know, you're in a party and things, but doing it solo, I can't say I've really had much luck with it. even if you have the base package Aurora, then that's fine, because I've seen a lot of comments on Reddit so far, and most of them about the free fly event have been positive. So lots of people have enjoyed it, and lots of people have had, you know, not so good experiences with it. Some people have had downright terrible experiences with it. It just depends how the servers are coping when you join, and what you try and do within the alpha itself. So there's some kind of all-based questions at the minute that if someone is new and they want to try the game, what's the kind of best things that you want to do to give yourself a good experience? And first I would say try and find some kind of community, because the whole thing about this is community. The alpha is a massive sandbox, and you need to find people to play with. If you try and play it on your own, you can, and you're going to have fun for a while, but once you've kind of done a few missions and things, and you've sort of gotten over the awe of how good the graphics look, or how cool it is to fly down to a planet, or you visit ArcCorp and you see that it's a city all over the planet, that novelty wears off fairly quickly. And unless you're doing it with people and you get involved in a big, you know, huge multi-person ship gunfight, or, you know, you go and hold a drug labs area hostage for a while to stop people making money, then things can dry up pretty quickly. Someone's asked the questions about what's the best way to grind money with the Aurora. So if you only have a starter ship, and you know, you have basic credits, some of the best things you can do is some of the stuff that I'm doing right now, which is the delivery pilot for Covalex missions, which basically means you go and make money from doing Dropbox missions. It makes you pick up boxes and drop them off at different locations, and you normally make just under 8k credits per run, and you can kind of double up on that and make some more money and some more money and some more money. And then you can try and do different exotic things if you're, you know, you have the patience, as we just said about this alpha, to save enough money to go and buy one of the other ships from one of the ship dealers. Then full power to you, because you probably have a bit more patience than I do grinding it out for what the alpha has to offer currently. Then you can sort of expand into other areas. I kind of think that's the majority of things that come to mind when I'm trying to sort of evaluate this game and give it a bit of feedback that people hopefully can take something away from. To kind of sign it off in a nutshell, I would just say, again, if you're considering dipping your toe into this, be it with the remaining 2 days of the free flight, or if you want to do a pledge and you buy a basic game package or something like that, there's a lot to love about the alpha. However, there is still a lot that definitely needs improvement, and there is still a ton of bugs and things to break, so you kind of just have to bear that in mind. One of the things that you're most definitely going to need if you're going to kind of get involved with this is patience. So patience is a massive factor when you want to play this alpha, because things are going to break. Everything in this alpha takes time to do, so it's not really something where you can try and dip your toe in for maybe, you know, half an hour and run around in. It's a big time investment is what I'm trying to say, and a money investment if you get sucked into the pitfall that is beautiful looking internet spaceships on gorgeous looking planets. So yeah, there's definitely a lot that everyone can enjoy from this, and you know, as a sort of technological step forward in gaming, it's getting there, but there's still a lot that will break. So if that's not for you, or you know, you're definitely more into the kind of looter shooter games, shall we say, those kind of things, then Star Citizen is something that for now you should still probably give a miss, because it's something that I don't think many people like who are into those kind of games might get enjoyment out of. I could be wrong, everybody's different when it comes to playing games, but for me, I like the kind of slow-paced, sort of visually inspiring gameplay, like flying around in a little ship, just in a delivery mission like this, a little bit of space trucking in a spaceship that at the minute I haven't even paid for, is a good bit of fun and sort of a nice way to kill an evening. And if something does break, then I can submit a bug report and hopefully contribute to, you know, getting the development a bit more fun and a bit more forward. So this was a bit of a ramble. I'm sorry if it definitely felt like that. It definitely felt like it to me, even though I was trying to cover different points, but hopefully there's something that people can take away with this if they haven't played the game yet, or they're, you know, enjoying the free flight. So I hope it was an enjoyable listen for you, or I hope you got something out of it. So until then, or maybe when we do another one of these videos, when we get some more features brought into the game, thank you for listening, and I will see you all next time.